Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. First point is about introduction. Okay, as you all can see, this is Al-Andalus map, which is like Braga, Zaragoza, Toledo, Cordova, Granada, and others. Okay, now I would like to explain about Andalusia era. Muslims in the heyday of Andalusia Islamic civilization have reached an impressive level of knowledge of the Eastern society and the West. The achievement of this knowledge is closely related to the effective methodology and method of learning knowledge that caused them to achieve the highest dignity in the field of knowledge. Various categories of society are involved in the learning process, such as children until adult. The government is also working to reduce poverty and unemployment. Okay, next is about learning system in Andalusia. The education system in Andalusia is based on the Quran and Sunnah. Muslims in Andalusia place great emphasis on these two sources of revelation in terms of learning and understanding. A famous Andalusian scholar, Ibn Arabi, narrated about his experience seeking knowledge with his own father by memorizing Al-Quranul Karim at an early age, 9 years. He also learned Qiraat, language and astronomy, Fara'id, mathematics, philosophy and others. Ibn Hazm has his own view in childhood learning methodologies. He thinks that children should start by learning kitab, which is writing, Qira'ah, reading, and then memorize the Quran, grammar, linguistics, mantiq, natural science, history, and studies related to nature. His view is similar to Ibn Arabi, rather critical view of the education system practiced at that time, because he traveled extensively to seek knowledge in various parts of the world. Okay, next is about level of learning in Andalusia era. First, students must memorize the Quran and deepen their knowledge, Qira'ah. Second, students learn more in-depth knowledge of the Quran, Qira'ah, Hadith and others. And last, student entering the field of specialization of knowledge on the science he learned at the second level. Okay, now the last is methodology of Islamic studies in the Andalusia era. Firstly, it's through the way of Al-Iqra. The teacher will teach and give correction to the student as well as the student taking notes. Secondly, is through the way of Al-Imla. The teacher mention knowledge based on the student current memory. And lastly is the technique of Al-Munazarah Al-Ilmiyah, which is debate. The way is that the peers will present the problem of knowledge or hadith and open space to other scholars to give view, debates and others. That's all for the introduction. Thank you.
Ibn Hazm first name is Ali Ibn Ahmad Ibn Sa'id Ibn Hazm Ibn Ghalib Ibn Shalih Ibn Khalaf Ibn Ma'adan Ibn Sufyan and Ibn Sufyan. He was born on Wednesday, November 7, 994, with the last day of the month of Ramadan, which is at the time before the dawn of Eidul Fitri morning in the Cordoba, Spain. He claimed a descent from a Persian client of Yazid, the son of Muawiyah, the first of Umayyad dynasty rulers in Syria. Having been raised in politically and economically important family, Ibn Hazm mingled with the people of power and influence all his life. Those experiences with the government and politicians caused Ibn Hazm to develop reluctant and even sad skepticism about human nature and the capacity of human beings to deceive and to oppress. Ibn Hazm lived among the circle of the ruling hierarchy of the Umayyad government. His experiences produced an eager and observant attitude, and he gained an excellent education at Cordoba. Ibn Hazm's family in the Andalus belonged to the ruling class of the Umayyad dynasty. His father was indeed a minister in the Umayyad court. Thus, in the high class of home, full of riches, Ibn Hazm was born, and he was looked After by a number of women, some were relatives and others were maids of fine accomplishment. These women taught him how to read and write and even helped him memorize the Quran. There was much political turmoil in the Andalus at the time, with the leaders gaining power and losing it at frequent intervals. This meant the arrest of his father, confiscation of some of his wealth, until his father died toward the end of 1012, when Ibn Hazm was only 18 years of age. This trying period was instrumental in giving Ibn Hazm a clear determination to make scholarship his highest pursuit, making the scholarly attainment his coveted prize. He concentrated at first on the Quran, the Hadith, and the language, achieving a high rank in each of these. His first study in faith was Mazhab Maliki because it was the predominant mazhab in North Africa and the Andalus, and then he learned about the Shafi'i. He actually admired Shafi'i for stressing the importance of religious texts, the Quran and the Hadith. He was also a firm supporter of Shafi'i in his strong criticism of istihsan or recursive analogy. However, Ibn Hazm did not stay long with the Shafi'i. He followed in the footsteps of an earlier Shafi'i scholar named Dawud ibn Ali, who 2 centuries earlier founded the Tahiri school of thought, which relies only on text and rejects the very concept of analogy. By 1031, Ibn Hazm retreated to his family estate at Mantalisham and had begun to express his activist conviction in the literary form. At the age of 32, Ibn Hazm finally renounced his political life and devoted himself wholeheartedly to scholarship. But his outspokenness in legal writings, which attacked the jurists of the dominant Maliki right, led to efforts to silence him. The latter of his life seems to have been spent on his family estates, writing and teaching informally to those who sought him out. He died on August 15, 1064 at Mantalisham near Sevilla, Spain.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Abang Muhammad Adi bin Abang Jamali, metric number 1182600. Today I would like to present about contribution Ibn Hazm. We go to Ibn Hazm teachers. A pious teachers and Warab, namely Abu al-Husayn Ibn Ali al-Farisi, the teacher who eliminates stigmas the last of young students like Ibn Hazm, and Abu al-Husayn also the teacher of his father's choice. The second teacher is Abu al-Qasim Abdul Rahman ibn Abi Yazid al-Misri. Abu al-Qasim invited Ibn Hazm to attend a Sunday to study the science of Hadith and Arabic literature. The first knowledge learned by Ibn Hazm was the science of Hadith after he memorized the Quran and the poetry of Arabic. The science of Hadith as well he learned from Al-Hamzani and Abu Bakr Muhammad ibn Ishaq. The science of fiqh was first obtained from the fiqh of the Maliki sect, because the sect which is widely embraced by Andalusian society. And the last teacher is Muhammad ibn al-Hassan al-Mazhaji, known as Ibn al-Qadari. Ibn Hazm teaches Muhammad ibn al-Hassan al-Mazhaji, who Ibn Hazm teaches, studied illuminative logic and philosophy. He tends to take the outward meaning of Nash and has selectivity in between various sects. We go to Ibn Hazm's students. Among the disciples of Ibn Hazm was Muhammad bin Qutb bin Ain, who deepened the science of history. Abu Abdullah al-Humayd al-Andalusi, who delved into
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi taala wabarakatuh. My name Muhammad Hazm Husaini bin Muhammad Sauli, matric number 1182604. Today I will explain about the Ibn Hazm contribution in Islamic education, about his work. Firstly, kitab Al-Muhalla, about the jurisprudence. The Muhalla, or the Adult Treatise, it is reported to be a summary of a much longer work known as Al-Mujalla. Its essential focus is on matters of jurisprudence or fiqh, but it also touched of matters of the creed in its first chapter, Kitab At-Tawhid, whose focus in on creedal matters related to monotheism and the fundamental principle of approach to divine text. One of the main points that emerge from the masterpiece of jurisprudential thought is that Ibn Hazm reject analogical reasoning qiyas, but prefer a far more Next is Kitab Al-Akhlaq wa Siyar. Ibn Hazm has collected in this book many ideas which Allah, the provider of the intellect, has enabled him to understand the state of destiny and control its fluctuations, as far as where Ibn Hazm has devoted most of his life to it. He has chosen to overcome this problem by studying and contemplating rather than throwing himself into the various sensual pleasures that attract most of the soul. Next, Kitab Al-Ahkam fi Usul Al-Ahkam. This work of Ibn Hazm deals with Usul al-Fiqh, very detailed and thorough, very rich evidence from the Quran and the Sunnah, and hammering the importance of sticking on both in everything. The book covers all chapters of Usul as evidence, judgment, the use of text, orders, prohibition, the general and the specific, the abrogating and the abrogate, the analogy, consensus. Kitab Tawqul Hamamah is a treatise on love writing by Ibn Hazm, normally a writer of theology and law. Ibn Hazm produced his only work of literature with the Ring of the Dove. He was heavily influenced by Plato's Phaedrus, so the bulk of the work was still his own writing, rather than an anthology of other works. Although the human aspect of affection are the primary concern, the book was still written from the perspective of a devout Muslim, and as such, chastity and restraint were common themes. The book provides a glimpse into Ibn Hazm's own psychology. Ibn Hazm's teenage infatuation, which one of his family mates is often quoted as an example of the sort of chaste, unrequited love about which the author Kitab Ar-Risalah Al-Bahira. As a Zahiri, he relied on his understanding of the Quran and Sunnah and the example of the companions, condemning taqlid and discarding qiyas as an unreliable method for obtaining knowledge. He known as much for his eloquence as for his sharp tones, especially in his scathing criticism of contemporary ulama and their taqlid. Ibn Hazm nonetheless